have a look at the highlights of another action-packed Sprint Cup race that began with Michael Meadows taking the lead at the first corner, but also straight away he was under investigation, as was Ben Barneycoat's McLaren, for an infringement even before the race had got underway, with the cars being on the jacks at the 3-minute mark when they should not have been pre-race. There was lots of drama going on all the way up and down the order as Audis, Ferraris and Lamborghinis scrabble their way through the chicane, and an early casualty, Antonio Felix da Costa, who was tapped into that spin by Marcel Fassler, and also in early strife Ben Barneycoat, punctured tyre putting him off the road and forcing a pit stop before he got a drive-through for that start infringement. The battle for second became the battle for the lead, Michael Meadows serving a drive-through, and it meant that we had Clement Schmidt and Marcus Winkelhock arguing over the lead as Ezequiel Perez Compact fought it out, with Enzo E, the reigning champion, being forced wide over the curb and onto the grass. Will Stevens patiently waited his turn to get on board the leading car as Jake Dennis ran wide coming out of turn one. Stevens limbered up, ready to replace Marcus Winkelhock, who followed into the pit lane Clement Schmidt, but would leave ahead. It was a very good stop indeed by the WRT engineers, and that cycled through the number 2 Audi quicker than 75. They were still changing the tyres as Will Stevens blasted away, so time was lost by the 75 crew. Another second or so before the car dropped down onto the ground. Thumbs up and a round of applause from Messrs Tassin, Voss and Dieudonné on the pit wall as battles raged on out on track. Danny Juncadella was pressing on as well as he tried to fend off the challenge of Jimmy Eriksson. In the end, Eriksson went through, but Juncadella would get him back brutally and change the last few minutes of the race. Winkelhock looked on as Will Stevens led the way. Time to take on board some fruit as lower down, Frank Stippler was tapped into a spin by Daniel Karlwitz. Karlwitz got a penalty for his pains. Robin Frins was running third in the qualifying race-winning car, hustling on behind the leading duo, trying for all he was worth to close the gap to Philippe Salaquada. But it just wasn't quite happening until we had this, as Juncadella got into the back spectacularly of Jimmy Eriksson, wiped out 86, and although he was able to rejoin, he didn't last long, Jimmy Eriksson, and ended up parking on the pit straight. It took longer than anticipated to move the car. A full course yellow became a safety car. That meant that everybody bunched up, but the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari had to get out of the way. And in fairness to Rinaldi, the team did a great job of making sure the car did get out of the way on the restart. So Salaquada chased after Will Stevens, but ran a bit deep into the first corner, enabling Robin Frins to have a go, but it didn't quite work for him. They battled their way through together, as on target for the race win was Marcus Winkelhock and Will Stevens for their first Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup win. A great weekend of racing here at Zolder from John Watson and David Addison. Bye-bye.